Gonna feel the sound. I'm gonna hear the way the light hits the ground.
Oh, that one.
Gonna know what it feels like to drown.
Thank you, sir.
The last time I was in LA, the US just started the rollout of their COVID-19 vaccines. It was a hopeful time.
Well, I hope so.
Still, people were required to wear masks and observe social distancing. Now, 6 months later, people are out and about. Masks are not a requirement to wear if you've taken the vaccine. And the biggest sign of normalcy, at least for me, is seeing the bands come out. Live music is gearing to be back on tour. It feels like everything is back to same old, almost.
So where are you from originally?
I'm from Ghana.
Ghana?
Yes, sir. You been in Africa before?
Yeah, I've been to South Africa before.
Oh, how was the weather there?
Beautiful. It was perfect riding weather. Similar to what we're seeing right now. I mean, this is perfect riding weather.
Yes.
Nice and cool and nice and sunny. You know Africa Bambata? You know that song? Hello Africa, tell me what you're doing.
Oh, yeah?
You know that song?
Not really.
That was a hit in the Philippines.
Yeah, nice meeting you.
Yeah, nice to meet you. Social distance handshake. Fist bump, there you go. And after you do the fist bump, you gotta wipe it.
I go back to the City of Angels for one of the most important bikes produced from one of the most iconic motorcycle brands ever. A brand associated with sheer moto beauty. And of course, performance. Hello Los Angeles, I'm back. This time for the MV Agusta Superveloce.
Are you Nathan? Nice to finally meet you, Nathan.
Nice to meet you.
So this guy helped me on the New York ride, and he's now with MV Agusta. How you doing, sir? So wow.
Feels like it's going to break. I haven't seen anyone in a couple of days.
This is the feature debut of MV Agusta in Macchina, a brand that started in 1907 in Palermo, Italy. Yes, over a century ago, by a Sicilian who's who by the name of Count Giovanni Agusta. They started out focusing on servicing planes from other manufacturers. Like many brands, MV Agusta was born out of the ravages of war. World War I found them producing their own planes and diversifying into motorcycles after the death of Giovanni Agusta. The brand Meccaniche Verghera was created in 1945, which, as you guessed, is the MV and MV Agusta. Manufacturing planes was outlawed in Italy as a result of the war, believe it or not, and this forced the hand of the Agustas, thankfully, and their first motorcycle, the MV98, was launched. The rest is history. Yes, you see two bikes in this trip. I'm saving the Brutale for another episode. For now, we will focus on the looker bike.
That's the sound of the soul going in. Clack, clack, click, clack, clack. That's the sound of the gun going bang, bang. Tuka, tuk, 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 tuka. That's the sound of the drum button pusher.
The Superveloce's main ingredients would be beautiful classic lines on top and a lot of modern and state-of-the-art technology underneath. Serving a moto dish to satisfy the most critical of critiques. Power, we have 150 horses, capable of reaching 240 kph, coming from their latest 3-cylinder engine. This is an 800, mind you, and acceleration, if I were to describe it, is a combination of two traits, producing what I call refined bruteness, a character derived from important energy and seating position. You know you are getting out of there quick and fast, but you're doing it in a very sure and collected manner. Minus all the fluids, the Superveloce Dry weighs in at 173 kilos or 381.4 pounds. For its segment, that's light. It's very agile. Torque-wise, the Superveloce can do 88 Nm at 10,000 RPM, and it's got 6 gears. Engine management has all sorts of high-techery, which is in contrast of its retro looks. It's got integrated ignition, ride-by-wire control, detonation, and misfire torque control with 4 maps, traction control with 8 levels of intervention. Shifting is easy with the electronic quick shift. The frame is an ALS steel tubular trellis peeking out at the side. Swing arm is aluminum. Suspension at the front is a Marzocchi upside-down hydraulic fork. Rear suspension is the very able progressive Sax Mono. Brakes out front are double disc, while at the rear it's a lonesome single. Aluminum wheels are wrapped with 17 Pirelli Diablo Rosso Corsa 2s. The fairing material, thermoplastics. And the fuel tank can give you 16.5 liters. Riding in Los Angeles is similar to riding in Asia. You're allowed to lane split if the speed of fellow motorists are below 30 miles per hour. Drivers get crazier at night, so I was fine and in my element.
Yeah. First name, last name, date of birth. Make a bad bitch sign paperwork. Once the ink dries, can't say a word.
Sama ng traffic. Buti na lang nakamotor tayo. Alright, so I have experienced bad traffic in Los Angeles. It's not the first time. If you were gonna ask me how the Superveloce is holding up in bad Los Angeles traffic, it's quite manageable actually. Of course, sport bike comfort, it's relative. It's not so bad. At least, I mean, from my height, I've experienced a more forward slouch position with other bikes, and this is alright. What I did notice though is that, you know, when you're gripping the tank with your knees when you're braking, so you can push yourself back, right? Grip, push yourself back when you're braking so you don't put much pressure in your wrist. That's what I'm struggling to do with this particular bike. So the position is not letting me push back for some reason. I think it's just the angle or something. Again, it's not really a deal breaker, just something I noticed.
Handling the Superveloce is very easy, absolutely very sport bike-esque. Because of its length and trail, this is a compact, nimble bike. It's one of the easiest sport bikes to ride out there. Be careful though, as this can give one a false sense of security. This is a real machine with real power. It's easy to ride, and one can understandably get easily carried away. Be careful. There you have it, the Superveloce, MV Agusta Superveloce 800. Well, what can I say? It's a beautiful bike. MV Agusta equals beautiful bike. Typical of all MV Agusta bikes, every single place you look here, it's just great attention to detail in terms of quality. From the stitching, to the cuts, the lines, things like that. So much nice details that pop up. Like when this pops up out of the tank in the crotch area, this, that, you know, all these little things. The paint job is not like what you would see with other bikes where everything is super fine detailed, reflections and all of that. This has a thicker paint spray to it, and I appreciate that. It's very Italian. It's not too fine. It has a thicker look to it, and I'm really digging that. In terms of fit and finish, everything from the welds, steel trellis frame, everything is in proper order. Everything is done right. Everything is nice and solid. Detail, everything in proper order, sort of perfect, if I may say. It's just stellar in how they did it. Now let's just look at some of the details that we have here. As you can see, we got this little leather strap going across. Of course, this is very retro. Now the reason why they had straps back in the day was this was how they held the tanks down. They literally had leather straps to keep the tank down back in the day. So nowadays we don't really need this, but it's a nice styling cue actually. So I like how that is there. The nose of the Veloce, we got something old school going on over here. This is reminiscent of some dustbin designs from the 70s, late 60s. So that's a cool light right there. And at the end, you also got some old school MotoGP-esque, which is also very retro, looking at that light. And it's like a nice mash of parts of what we had that was cool from the past and a lot of, you know, modern day tech. This bar end mirror, I would say I appreciate. It's cool and slick, and at the same time it's still robust. Details on what we have here, you got a little logo, Superveloce, Autocento, aluminum. The sheen on this is also very, very nice. There's this frosty aluminum sheen. You're gonna appreciate this better when you see it in person. In terms of suspension, we got Mazzocchi forks right here, fully adjustable, as you can see. For the rear shocks, we got Sachs going on over there, and I did speak with a Superveloce owner here in the US. He did mention that he had to tweak this a bit because straight out of the box it wasn't damping as much, and if your rear shocks does not have that kind of damping, then when you're at a certain speed you're gonna have a bit of slap and the rear is gonna be a bit unmanageable in that sense. But you know, he adjusted it and the problem got solved. So when you get this out of the store, take a look into that and take it out for a spin and see how you can adjust it accordingly. A few turns should do the trick. Okay, for the brakes out in front, we got Brembo double discs, of course. There's ABS. For the tires, we have Pirelli Diablo Rosso Corsa 2s. And these are really good tires, nice and sticky. You just gotta warm them up a bit. Single disc Brembos at the rear. Again, not bad there as well. We got a 5-inch TFT display, so I appreciate that. So we're gonna fire it up. Logo comes out. Checking the engine. Battery's okay, and there you have it. Nice, simple TFT display. So how do we get into this? It's got a lot of bells and whistles here. Pretty simple layout here. Towards the left, you really just gotta worry about this. So this would go through the menus, enter left, right to go into it. So if I hit this towards the right, this is what's gonna happen. There's traction control 1, there's your ABS. If I hit this one while I'm in that page, you can now see these two things come out like so, which means I can now adjust the ABS. There you go. Stick to 1, enter trip record, and that is the rest of the other info there. So it's pretty much straight up. Neutral, let's fire her up. Wow, right? Sounding good, Superveloce. And now for the seats, I can safely say that this seat is not going to be the most comfortable seat out there. But you have to take it into context because this is a sport bike. Through and through, it's a sport bike, it's fast, it's cool, it's aggressive looking, and expect a not so comfortable seat for your bum. That's all you get. And if you press down to it, it's not going down as much. Literally, this is like a plank with a bit of foam. It's not going down as much. So know what you're getting into when you buy this. Now, is this cool for me? I mean, a seat like that and a bike like this? Absolutely. You can take out that whole seat and I'd sit on the plastic, no problem, if there's a bike that looks this cool. I don't mind at all. So they put a lot of thought on the lines of this bike. I mean, take a look at it. From the top view, you can see how it starts thin here, goes wide, and tapers off again. It's a sexy looking bike. Now, what I'm digging about this is that, obviously, I'm a retro fan. I'm not a big fan of angular sport bikes. I can appreciate modern sport bikes that look like they're gonna transform into a robot or something. I can appreciate the performance and what it can offer, but I would always prefer something that is more classic looking. Basically, this bike is off an F3 800 Sport. That's where this bike came from. What they did was basically they put some better clothes on the F3. It's now an F3 in a suit. It just looks so much cooler for me. There are other, of course, trims with a Veloce. I've seen a setup wherein the stack pipes were split. You're gonna have two pipes over here, and then the other one was gonna come out on this side, and that looked totally stellar. I think I saw that in EICMA back in 2019. The gold Stellus frame, I'm not a big fan of. I would prefer this in either red or black. there's something that I would just change in terms of aesthetics, it would be the gold frame. I also saw another trim wherein it had spoke wheels. That's a much more expensive bike. It's not, I mean, it's not bad looking, but if you would look at it in the context of retro lines, definitely spoke wheels would be better. Now, if I were to nitpick the bike, I don't know if this is a one-off or if it's an adjustment with this, but when I'm turning full on left, like so, and my thumb is there, as you can see, my thumb would be hitting the body like so. And when you're wearing gloves as well, you can feel this, you know, pressing against your finger. Now, is that a bad thing? Well, you know, on a practical sense, you're not going to be using this turning radius a lot. I mean, you're going to be in the racetrack, you're not going to be doing this. You're basically going to be doing this when you're maneuvering in and out of parking, or when you're trying to go through a U-turn slowly, or a tight U-turn. So that's what I noticed. It's a small thing, really. I mean, it's not going to hamper your enjoyment of the bike. It's not going to hamper your riding. It's just a small little thing. On the right side, does it happen there? Actually, here, no. I have some space. So it's fine on this side. So again, it might just be an adjustment here. So I'm not really sure. Again, on the left, my thumb is gonna get squished if you hang left all the way. But again, that's a bit on the nitpick side. Doesn't really do anything in terms of the overall performance and beauty and line of the MV Agusta Superveloce 800. Just to reiterate, this is a true and proper sport bike. This is not like a bike that looks like a sport bike. It really is a sport bike. I know a lot of you are thinking, but does it look like your usual modern day sport bike, Zach? Don't worry about that. It will behave and perform just like a proper sport bike. You can take this out on track. Apart from looking cool, this machine will perform really, really well. Okay, I'm gonna try out the brakes today. So that part's cool. It says cold engine, and that's telling you to not to get too excited and just take off right away. You know, let it warm up. All right, so we are in a village here in Southern California, Los Angeles area. One of the villages here. Let's try the brakes. 27 miles per hour, and rear first. Those are the rear brakes. So let's go to 30 miles an hour. Rear brakes. Okay, so you'll never get a skid out of the rear. ABS is working fine. Interval of the pump is going pug, 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 pug. Front brakes. Wow, okay, awesome braking on the front. Yeah, stellar front braking from the MV Agusta Superveloce. Let's do both now. Okay, since I am in a sport bike riding position, of course, slamming on the front brakes, if you're a sport bike rider, you know what to do. You gotta push back more than usual. Because you might go over the bike, because the braking power of this Superveloce at the front is pretty good. So just be wary, tuck yourself lower, slam on the front. Yeah, good brakes. Let's go a bit faster now and just do both brakes again. Yeah, you're gonna stop with these. And I wasn't slamming on it like super emergency, because you can feel it really bite. I'm taking it easy actually on the brakes, but it's already stopping sufficiently. So sport bikes go, the brakes on the Superveloce, pretty good, especially the front. And as usual, as with any bike, as with every other suggestion I do in terms of braking, just use both and you're fine. The Superveloce comes in 3 variants: the 800, the 75 Aniversario, and the Serie Oro. And if I were to gun for one of them, I'd gun for the Aniversario. Only 75 made in the world. You see, the Superveloce is clearly one of those bikes that you would keep in your family for generations to come. This is a bike for keeps. This is a bike that will never age. The fairest of them all. A bike that will piss off Snow White's stepmother. and a bike that is the standard and bar to beat in terms of classic beauty and lines. To date, it's just the most beautiful bike in the world. Again, what's really special about it, it's that it's a bike of beauty with a lot of brains and skill. Yes, it's got quirks like what I pointed out with the handlebar, but that's what adds on to its appeal. It's perfect in its imperfectness. I don't think I've raved this much on a bike before, and that can only mean one thing. I want one. The Aniversario, with only 75 made in the world, is priced at 1.9 million pesos. It's a tall order, and I'll figure it out. This is the Superveloce 800 by MV Agusta. This is Zach from Makina Moto Features. Ciao!
Pwede bang mauli